I used to clean teeth for a living. Now I manage $500,000 in real estate, and trust me, one is way less messy. But this isn't a rags to riches story. It's about an ex-husband who tried to hijack my inheritance, and how I shut him down so hard he lost everything. If you've ever been underestimated, this story is for you. My name's Lauren Mitchell. I'm 47, and until a few weeks ago, I lived a quiet life in Tucson. Worked as a dental hygienist, liked my peace, loved my routines. Had a cat named Murphy who hated everyone but me. Life was simple, predictable, until the phone rang one Tuesday morning. It was a lawyer from Phoenix. "Your Aunt Valerie named you as the sole beneficiary in her estate," he said. I almost dropped my toothbrush. I hadn't even seen Aunt Valerie in years. She was my dad's older sister. One of those fiercely independent, child-free women who wore pearls even to the grocery store. She'd been a real estate investor for decades. I always thought she was rich but reclusive. Turns out she wasn't just rich. She was strategic. She left me 5 fully paid-off rental properties scattered across Phoenix and Scottsdale. That's right, 5. Total estimated value? Jew. At first, I thought, no way. There has to be a mistake. But the paperwork was legit. My name was on everything. I was still trying to wrap my head around it when the doorbell rang, and that's when I saw him. Slick hair, smug smile, standing on my porch like he still had a key. Trevor. My ex-husband. Yeah, he found out. Probably from Facebook or some cousin who can't keep their mouth shut. "You really think you can handle all this by yourself?" he asked, gesturing to the pile of legal documents on my kitchen table like they were IKEA instructions. I stared at him for a second. Was he serious? It had been 3 years since our divorce. 3 years since I clawed my way out of his financial disasters, his constant control, his passive-aggressive, just trying to help nonsense. And now, the man who once tanked our savings on a gourmet popcorn startup thought I needed him to manage a real estate portfolio. Trevor was always good at pretending to care while maneuvering to get his way. During our marriage, it was little things. "Let me handle the finances," he'd say. "You're too busy with work." That turned into him draining our savings into get-rich-quick schemes. One time he had me co-sign a restaurant loan. Guess who was left holding the bag when it went belly up? So when he leaned in and said, "You're just a dental hygienist, Lauren. I manage properties for a living," it was like being transported back in time. The manipulation hadn't changed. Just the script. I took a breath. "I didn't ask for your help, Trevor. And I don't need it." He laughed. "Come on. These properties are worth almost $1 million. You think watching YouTube videos on property management is gonna cut it?" Truth be told, I had no clue what I was doing. But that didn't mean I was handing over the reins to the guy who once bought 3 espresso machines on credit because coffee is recession-proof. Still, something about his confidence poked at my insecurities. Was I actually capable of running this operation alone? I sat with those doubts for a bit, then I called Janet. Now Janet is the friend every woman needs. She's a paralegal, a single mom, and probably more intimidating than most trial attorneys. She'd helped me through the divorce. So I told her everything. Trevor, the inheritance, his generous offer to partner up. "Lauren," she said, "you need to get him away from your money, like yesterday." "But what if he's right?" I said. "What if I screw this up?" She didn't even pause. "No. You've already survived worse. This is just the next chapter. You're going to protect your assets, set up an LLC, and make sure this slimeball can't even sniff your rental income." That night, I made a decision. Not just to fight Trevor, but to believe I could do this. Maybe not perfectly, but on my own terms. And here's the thing. I'm not the only one who's faced this. There's this story about a woman in Atlanta, divorced, 2 kids, working night shifts, who inherited a duplex and started managing it herself. She watched webinars during her breaks, built a tenant vetting system on her iPad, and eventually bought 2 more properties with her profits. She didn't have a business degree. She just refused to be sidelined. If she could do it, so could I. The Monday after that awful kitchen table ambush, I took a personal day from the dental clinic and hit the road to Phoenix. Murphy, my grumpy tabby, gave me a disapproving glare as I left, as if to say, "You sure you're built for this, property boss?" The drive took a little over 2 hours, plenty of time to psych myself up, second-guess myself, and rehearse imaginary confrontations with Trevor. No, Trevor, I don't need your spreadsheet, and yes, I know what equity is. Janet had connected me with a lawyer in Phoenix, a guy named Howard Brennan. She called him the legal version of a brick wall in a necktie. My kind of guy. But first, I wanted to see what I'd inherited. The first stop was a duplex in Scottsdale. The outside was clean, beige stucco, desert landscaping, and a little note taped to the door that read, "T. Aunt Valerie, still mana." I walked around back and peeked through the window. Inside was a tidy, modest 2-bedroom with warm tile floors and ceiling fans spinning lazily in the July heat. No broken windows, no mold, no squatters. Just quiet. Second stop, a single-family home in Tempe. Again, well-kept, good neighborhood, fresh paint. Third stop, another home, similar vibes. But it was the last property, a 4-unit apartment building in central Phoenix, that hit me in the chest. As I stepped into the courtyard, I spotted a woman watering potted plants near one of the units. She looked to be in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair and an Arizona Diamondbacks t-shirt. "You the new landlady?" she asked with a cautious smile. I nodded. "I am. My name's Lauren." She wiped her hands on her jeans and extended one. "Maria Rodriguez. Been living here 6 years. Your aunt was a good one. Fair. Fixed things when they broke. Never raised our rent just because she could." I felt my throat tighten a little. "Thanks for telling me that," I said. "I want to continue what she started." Maria's eyes softened. "Just treat people right. That's all most of us ask." And suddenly, it wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about proving Trevor wrong or managing an inheritance. It was about honoring a legacy, about doing right by people who'd built their lives in these spaces. It was about building something that mattered. That afternoon, I walked into Howard's downtown Phoenix office, a small but sharp suite with leather chairs and framed tax code updates on the wall. Lawyers are weird. Howard greeted me with a handshake firm enough to dislocate a shoulder. "You must be Lauren. Janet speaks very highly of you." "That's because she hasn't seen my Google search history lately," I joked. "I've looked up how to evict tenants legally at least 5 times. He smiled. "Let's avoid that route if we can." I laid everything out: my background, my ex, the inheritance, Trevor's pushy behavior, and the gut feeling that he was trying to snake his way into something he had no right to touch. Howard listened, scribbled notes, and finally said, "What you need is control, clarity, and legal protection." Sounds like therapy. He chuckled. "Here's what I propose. We create 2 entities. First, a revocable living trust to hold all the properties. You'll be the sole trustee and beneficiary. No one else can touch it unless you say so. And the second? An LLC, Suncaster Property Management. The LLC will handle operations like rent collection, maintenance, leases. You'll be the sole manager and member. All income flows through the LLC. All decisions, your call." "And Trevor?" Howard's eyes narrowed like a hawk. "Unless you add him voluntarily, which I strongly advise against, he has 0 legal standing. No claim, no authority, not even a right to ask questions. And if he tries to interfere, We'll file for harassment and possibly seek a restraining order. I exhaled. How soon can this be done? If we start today, I'll have the documents ready by Friday. I could have hugged the man. I didn't, because boundaries. But I wanted to. I couldn't help but think about all the times Trevor had convinced me I wasn't built for things. You're not wired for risk, Lauren. Let me handle the big stuff. You're better at supporting. Support. That word had become a leash in our marriage. My money supported his failures. My energy supported his ego. My dreams? They just got shelved. But now, standing in that lawyer's office, preparing to sign paperwork for an LLC I owned and controlled, I felt something new. Power. Real power. Not revenge, not spite, but the quiet kind, the kind that comes from finally believing you're allowed to lead your own life. Stay tuned. By the time Friday rolled around, my name was officially on every dotted line. The trust was finalized. The LLC was established. I had my own EIN, business account, and a folder full of legal armor thicker than Trevor's ego. I was ready. Or so I thought. That evening, I got home to find Trevor leaning against his car in my apartment building's parking lot, folder in hand like some smug door-to-door salesman peddling overpriced ambition. I sighed. Of course he showed up. Of course. There you are, he said, like we'd had a scheduled meeting. I've got something to show you. A full business strategy. Took me all week. Trevor, Just give me 15 minutes, he interrupted, lifting the folder like it was holy scripture. If you still want me out after that, I'll leave. I hesitated and let him in. Why? Because sometimes the best way to beat someone like Trevor is to hear them out, and then dismantle their pitch so thoroughly they don't come back. We sat at my coffee table. He spread out charts, market analysis reports, maintenance estimates, and a tenant turnover forecast. I'll give him this. He did his homework. He pointed to a spreadsheet. Right now, you're bringing in around $4,800 a month from all 5 units combined, but you're undercharging. Based on current market rates, I could raise rents and bring in at least $5,500 monthly. That's a $700 difference, I said. And how do the tenants feel about it? He waved that off. They'll adapt. If not, you cycle them out. Standard business practice. Cycle them out. Like tenants were replaceable parts in his profit machine. Trevor wasn't talking about people. He was talking about revenue units. And what happens to Mrs. Rodriguez? I asked, picturing the woman who'd been living in one of those apartments for 6 years. She can't afford a big rent hike. Trevor shrugged. She's not your problem. Oh, but she was. She was part of the legacy my aunt left me. And I wasn't going to bulldoze that just to chase an extra few bucks. Let's get to the real point, I said. What's your role in this plan? He flipped to the last page and slid it over like he was handing me a contract on Shark Tank. Kellerman Patterson Property Management, he said proudly. A joint venture. You own the assets, I run operations. 70-30 split in your favor, plus I take a monthly management fee of $800. I read the fine print. The 70-30 split didn't include his fee, which meant he'd be walking away with close to half the total income. Plus, oh look, a clause giving him full operational authority. I looked up. Full operational authority. That means you'd make all the decisions. Only the day-to-day stuff, he said quickly. Repairs, leasing, contracts. So everything. He paused. You don't have the experience, Lauren. No, I said slowly, but I have something better now. Legal control. Let me pause here and break something down for you. What Trevor offered is a classic move in asset takeovers. It's not about stealing, it's about displacement. You stay the legal owner, on paper. But the operational authority is transferred quietly to someone else. It's like giving someone your debit card and telling them, Only use it for emergencies. Guess how that ends? And let me tell you, this happens all the time, especially to women, especially after divorces, especially when someone assumes we don't know what we're doing. It's called benevolent control, wrapped in concern, delivered with a smile, but it's still control. So let me get this straight, I said. You get $2,500 a month, full authority, and my silence. That's the deal? His smile faltered. I wouldn't put it that way, but I would. He leaned in, voice lowering. Lauren, you don't know this world. Letting someone like me take the reins is the smart play. And there it was. The core belief Trevor had always carried, that I was incapable. You said I'd get to enjoy the income without the headaches, I said. But what you meant was, I'd stay out of your way while you used my inheritance as your personal ATM. Don't be dramatic. No, I said, standing. You don't get to downplay this. Not after years of telling me I wasn't capable. Not after steamrolling every decision during our marriage. Not after pretending this partnership is about me when it's clearly all about you. Trevor blinked. Get out, I said. He opened his mouth, probably to accuse me of overreacting or misunderstanding business. But I didn't give him the chance. You're done here, Trevor. You don't get to control this narrative or my assets. This is my future, not your fallback plan. He gathered his papers, hands stiff with anger. You're making a mistake, he muttered. No, I said. I'm finally correcting one. But spoiler alert, I don't flinch. And this time, I've got backup. It had been a few days since I kicked Trevor out of my apartment, and honestly, I was feeling good. Suncaster Property Management was up and running. I was in touch with a contractor for small repairs, found a local CPA to help with the books, and even updated all 5 rental listings with my new business email. And the best part? I was doing it my way. Carefully, fairly, professionally. But Trevor? Oh, he wasn't finished. He left me voicemails, emails. One message said he had fresh ideas for maximizing the portfolio. Another warned me that I was setting myself up for financial disaster if I didn't accept his help. I ignored every one of them. Then, Tuesday came. I was at the dental clinic, halfway through a root planing procedure on a lovely retired teacher named Mrs. Glenn, when I noticed a blur pass by the front window. Next thing I hear, Lauren, we need to talk. Yup. Trevor. At my job. During business hours. He barged in with a manila folder clutched under his arm like he was delivering secret government documents. Our receptionist, Carrie, looked up with wide eyes. Sir, do you have an appointment? I'm not a patient, he said. I'm here for a personal matter. Dr. Henderson poked his head out of his office. Is there a problem out here? Trevor looked at me, mask still on, gloves mid-procedure, and said, Lauren's made some serious legal mistakes regarding her property setup, and I'm trying to protect her from herself. The room went still. I stood up slowly and turned toward him. Trevor, this is a medical office, not a real estate seminar. You need to leave. He raised his voice, which was always his go-to move when he felt the control slipping. You don't understand what you're doing. You've signed papers you don't even comprehend. That's when Dr. Henderson stepped fully into the hallway and said, in his calmest, most doctorly tone, Mr. Patterson, I'm going to ask you once. Please leave, or I will call security. Trevor flushed. I'm trying to help her. I peeled off my gloves. Help? By showing up at my job? By shouting legal advice in front of my coworkers and patients? I'm doing this because I care about your future. No, I said. You're doing this because you can't stand the fact that I didn't need you. And then I said it. Loud, clear, for everyone to hear. I hired a lawyer. I created a trust. I formed a limited liability company. Everything I've done is legally airtight. And nothing you say or do is going to change the fact that you are no longer a part of my life or my business. Carrie blinked. Dr. Henderson raised an eyebrow. Trevor opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. And then he left. Just walked out. No folder pitch, no closing argument, just stunned silence. Let me pause here. It's one thing to stand up to someone in private. It's another to do it in front of witnesses, in the place where you've worked hard to build respect. Trevor showing up at my job wasn't just desperation. It was about reestablishing dominance, interrupting my work, undermining me, making a scene so that I'd feel small enough to give in. But here's the truth. People like that don't expect you to fight back in public. They expect you to get flustered, to retreat, to talk about it later. They forget that we grow stronger every time they underestimate us. And when you've got a support system, legal advice, and self-respect in place, their tactics bounce off you like pebbles on armor. After Trevor left, Dr. Henderson walked over and quietly asked, "Are you okay?" I nodded. "Actually, I've never been better." "You handled that like a professional," he said. "And for what it's worth, I've been in business for over 20 years. And everything you just said sounds like you've got a better head for this than most people I've met." Coming from a man who ran his own practice, that meant something. Later that evening, I called Janet and gave her the play-by-play. Her reaction? "That man has no idea what he just did. We're documenting this. And if he pulls one more stunt like that, we file for harassment." Janet didn't mess around. She'd already added a letter of no contact template to my folder, just in case. But the real shift happened inside me. It was the first time I'd felt, viscerally, that Trevor's power over me was completely gone. Not just legally, emotionally. This wasn't just me protecting my inheritance. This was me closing a chapter of my life that had been dragging its claws through my confidence for years. And let me tell you something. That night, when I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony watching Murphy try to stalk a moth, life felt really, really quiet, but not empty, just peaceful. After the workplace showdown, Trevor went quiet. No calls, no emails, no more surprise drop-ins. At first, I assumed he was regrouping, planning his next attempt to reinsert himself into my life. But a few weeks later, Janet called me with an update. "You're going to love this," she said, practically grinning through the phone. "You know how Trevor's been parading around like a real estate mogul?" "Unfortunately," I said. "Well, word's gotten out about how aggressively he tried to take over your inheritance. Apparently, someone in the Phoenix real estate circle got wind of it. Rumors are spreading, and not the good kind. Turns out the real estate world, especially in mid-sized markets, is smaller than you'd think. One bad story can stick like chewing gum on a hot sidewalk. Kellerman Associates, the firm Trevor worked for, already on edge about his performance. Add the whispers of ethical concerns, boundary violations, and unauthorized partnership proposals, and they started pulling back. First, they reassigned him to manage low-income properties on the edge of town. Then, quietly, his name was removed from the company website. Within 3 months, he was gone. No dramatic firing. Just phased out. I later heard he took a job with a much smaller firm in Nevada. Fewer perks, lower salary, less power, and a reputation he'd never outrun. Meanwhile, I was busy doing something completely different. Building. The more I worked with my tenants, the more I realized how much I loved this. Property management wasn't just spreadsheets and lease agreements. It was about people, homes, respect. I got to know Mrs. Rodriguez better. She started leaving tamales at my door on rent day. One tenant invited me to her kid's graduation. Another asked for a letter of recommendation when applying for a job out of state. I wasn't just running units, I was helping build stability. And financially, I was smarter than I gave myself credit for. I took night classes online in real estate finance. I learned how to read a zoning map. I sat in on city council meetings about development. And when a small duplex in Scottsdale came up for sale, below market value due to a divorce situation, I jumped, bought it, renovated it, rented it out myself. That's right. Property number 6. Suncaster Property Management had gone from a shell LLC to a full-fledged operation. I wasn't rich, not yet, but I was profitable, independent, and proud. One afternoon, I found myself sitting in the courtyard of that original 4-unit complex, the same place I'd met Mrs. Rodriguez. The sun was setting behind the palm trees, casting long golden streaks across the stucco. And I just sat there, letting it all soak in. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the autonomy. Trevor had once told me I was too cautious to be an entrepreneur, but that caution, that patience, that methodical, people-first mindset, it turned out to be my greatest strength. I didn't grow by becoming louder or tougher. I grew by becoming smarter. Let's take a second and zoom out. Stories like mine, they happen every day. Women inherit land, houses, or assets, and suddenly, men from their past, exes, brothers, even coworkers, appear with offers to help. Some mean well, but many see opportunity. What they underestimate is that the woman they knew isn't the woman standing in front of them now. There's something deeply powerful about reclaiming your voice after years of being dismissed, doubted, or controlled. You don't always need revenge, you just need freedom and the tools to defend it. I never spoke to Trevor again. Never needed to. But last Christmas, I got a card in the mail. No return address, just a note in familiar handwriting that said, "Congratulations, you made it further than I ever expected." No apology, no acknowledgement of the damage he tried to do. But honestly, I didn't care. Because by that point, I didn't need his validation. I had my own. So here's what I want you to take from this. You don't need to be the loudest, smartest, or most experienced person in the room to protect what's yours. You just need the willingness to learn, the courage to ask for help from the right people, and the refusal to let anyone make you feel small again. I started this journey as a woman who cleaned teeth. Now I build futures, mine and others. And if I can do it, so can you. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever felt underestimated, manipulated, or pushed aside, I want you to do 3 things. Like this video so YouTube shows it to more women who need it. Comment with the moment that hit you hardest. I read everyone. Subscribe to this channel for more real stories about power, growth, and emotional self-defense. We're building something here, and I'd love for you to be part of it.